Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Welcome to the breakout session, and this session will be discussing sustainable infrastructure development target for Lagos. I must welcome in our midst the special advisor to Mr. Governor on drainage and water resources. So he's also amongst us. Um, For us to do justice to the topic we will have two great speakers who will. Let me just get the names. I don't want to miss. Okay. We'll be having Dr. Olajumoke Akiode, Center for Ethics and Sustainable Development, and also we have Engineer Olufemi Olubumi Daramola, the General Manager, Lagos State Public Works Company Corporation. So both of them will be discussing the issue of sustainable infrastructure development target for Lagos. But I will start with a brief introduction. Since yesterday, we've been discussing issue of climate change, and in most of the discussions that I have listened to, I get a feeling that people are more or less trying to think climate change and infrastructure are two different things. But in my own mind, I will say they're about the same thing, because everything we have been discussing center around infrastructure. Whatever you were thinking of development and everything is one form of infrastructure that will bring out that development. Again, we also know that climate change poses a great threat to future development of infrastructure, particularly in Lagos State of ours, where key infrastructure are already underdeveloped and also are not meeting our current needs. So if you now exacerbate that with the issue of climate change, you realize that we have a lot of challenge in our midst. But I would say there are challenges. It's not as if we are not up to the task. So to start with, I will say let us hear from our two panelists, and then from then we can. But I want to do something just to add to what we want to discuss. Just on a random note, I'll just pick two people to just give me just one word to describe infrastructure in Lagos currently. Gentlemen, please, can you just, what do you think? How is infrastructure in Lagos? Just in one word.
I guess you've said it. It's inadequate.
Is inadequate? Okay. Madam, please. Is overstressed. Thank you very much. So on that note, we will start our discussions. Madam, note that they've already said the infrastructure is overstretched, it is inadequate, it's overstretched, and it's inadequate. So on that note, we will start the discussions, and I think let's start with, as I say, ladies first. Let's start with Madam, and then we gravitate towards GM. So please, you have the floor.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
You have 15 minutes.
Okay. So the topic is the sustainable infrastructure development target for Lagos State, and we've already identified that Lagos State has overstretched infrastructure development. So I'll just go straight to. I have a slide. I don't know why it's not showing, and because I have 15 minutes, I'm just going to run us through how Lagos State. Okay. Yeah, that's why I came and I was saying they should test.
Don't worry, this will not be taken out of the 15 minutes.
It's all right. Okay, so while we're at it, I can be gisting us about infrastructure. Okay, now. So we all know that infrastructure is the bedrock of the development of any country, any group, and society. And we're talking about the physical and the hard and the soft infrastructure, and that Lagos State is lagging behind in a lot of things that we need for development. And so, if we're talking about adaptation of infrastructure to climate change risk, because that is what we're supposed to be talking about at this gathering, we start with the policy. For as many of us that were here yesterday, there was the policy launch, and in our program we have the summary of actions. I don't know if you can just open with me. So yes, the last page before the speaker's profile, if you have it. Thank you. If you have it, thank you very much, because that is important to not just my discussion, but maybe tying up everything that we're doing at this summit. So we have the waste, we have the transport, we have the energy and the climate adaptation and resilience actions already planned by Lagos State. What I'm just going to add to it is this, because my work is as a policy researcher is to look at government policy. Fantastic job, fantastic one. So my recommendations, I'm just taking a slide out of my work, is that this is the summary of actions. One important aspect is missing. Water is missing, and it's essential. We live on water, we need water, so water is missing in this. Maybe this is not captured here, maybe it's already in the plan, I do not know, but for what I can see, water is missing in the summary of actions. Then as per, and it's important because there's no vision for Lagos in 2050, and there's already a prediction right now that by 2050, Lagos depends on the Ogun Oshun River water basin, and there's already a prediction that by 2050 it will be difficult to get water from that river basin. And so that's why I felt, wow, this is important and it's missing. If we're going to be if it's going to be extremely difficult to get water by 2050, then there should be a plan here describing how we're going to manage what we have, how we can improve what we're going to, how we can increase the source. And so we're looking at the seawater desalination that happens in most countries. We have a country, a part of my case study, because I kind of situated Lagos State with similar cities. Lagos State is a coastal city that is a mega city. So we have Namibia, which is a fellow African country, and they are doing fantastic job getting water from their sea. So I think this climate action plan is, if the summary does not capture everything, maybe they are forgiven. But if the summary captures what they have in the plan, then water is important. It should be included. It should be central. We should be thinking of how we're going to get water by 2050. We should have plans now, managing what we have. And I think part of the plans, part of my suggestion is about, now, Namibia had a problem, and that is that they had a contaminated water aquifer. And we're attending towards that in Lagos State. Ours is not just going to be contaminated water aquifer, it's going to be excessive boreholes, those holes that we have all over. Okay, thank you. No, I have not spent. You said it will not be counted, so I was just gisting you. Okay. No, I'm getting my 15 minutes back. So the various boreholes we have per household in Lagos State, something has to be done with the slide. Okay.
So that you don't start asking for
more time. Okay, so yeah, that's I was just telling you that Lagos has a role to play in driving climate change in Africa, in Nigeria, in Africa, and that's because most cities they do. So we'll be talking about adaptation, and adaptation basically is about adjusting to actual or expected climate risk, both the ones that are already existing. We're already told that the climate has changed, and it's still changing, and it will continue to change. So what are we doing to adapt to all of this? So I mentioned some things like flash floods. We've been experiencing that. Sea level encroachments. We've almost of these things we have experienced in Lagos State. Extreme weather, hot, dry, cold, harmattan, and rain, and food insecurity. Then adaptation of infrastructure delivery would involve, number one, this policy that we already have in Lagos State. We need to have a policy, and we already have one. But that's why I was just going through it right now. That's what we have. Okay, yeah, that what we okay. Move. Don't mind me. You got that. That what we have is not sufficient. I said water is missing. That is important. Then in terms of waste, what we have here, it is in 2050 that we want to get to 0% level discharge, 0% discharge. Right now, we have technology that is even home-based. We don't even need, there are times that we don't need gigantic structures. We have products that house units can use, that they can use in their, in the buildings, that would degrade waste. And that will work faster. Because Lagos State doesn't have money. No state has money. So we should look into that direction. So let me just continue from here before I go back to that place. So I said adapting infrastructure delivery to change and changing climates in Lagos State. So we have the CAP. I just mentioned the CAP now. And there is what we call the CCAP by some other African countries, adopted by some other African countries that we can also look at. And this CCAP is about low emission development, mitigation actions undertaken to reduce emission, climate change adaptation, and access to sustainable energy. A lot has been said about access to sustainable energy yesterday. A lot too was said about this emission, what did I even call it again? Greenhouse gases. Thank you very much. A lot has been said, but this should be the focus. This should be the focus, and it should be, I put it somewhere that it should be gendered and contextualized. It should be the focus. Climate change adaptation and mitigation adaptation, they go hand in hand. We can't just be adapting, we also need to mitigate. If you do not mitigate, your adaptation process or strategy is not going to work. Then energy access is important because it cuts across. For the road user, for the women in the villages, and even in the city, energy access is so very important that we need to focus on that. And I said all of this has to be gender conscious because we don't want to, whatever we do right now, going forward, we do not want to enlarge the gap that are already existing. Rather, we want to kind of close them. So when we talk about GHG emissions from, wow. Okay, I'm sorry. I was talking about CCAM and it wasn't on the screen. It's because the way it's positioned, I can't see the screen very well, so I'm using this. So if maybe this can move a little. Okay, so I've gotten here already. Climate change effects. We have the emission, the green gas emission. And I said it comes from three main sectors. We have the stationary energy from buildings, from transportation, and from waste. We are all familiar with all of this. We have industrial processes and product use. We have agriculture, forestry, and other land use, where thank you very much, where this is significant. In the places where this is significant. Okay, so please turn. Don't worry. Please just take it back. Let them see. Thank you. Sorry. I'm so sorry for that. So I'm moving on. Okay. So I'll do that. Okay, so when we talk about emission, we are so focused on carbon, CO2. There is also the refrigerants. Yes, the hydrofluorocarbon, don't mind me, HFCS. That is that one. It's even. If you okay. Wow. I've moved too fast. Okay. Thank you. Just put it on the floor. Thank you. Okay. So, like you can see on the board, in 2016 it was adjudged to be even more potent than our CO2. And it's with us in our coolants, it's with us in our refrigerators, our AC, and so on. What I just want to draw our attention here in this is this. Even though we are not focused on it, Lagos should start focusing on it. There's a lot of economic benefits in focusing on it. And because there's a lot of money to be made from it, businesses will also benefit from it, because these HFCs, they leak from the appliances. So we can make money from maybe insisting, that any appliance that has this that is coming into the country, there's supposed to be a kind of check, get people trained in that to begin to check them. Even where they are stored in the stores, they leak. So that's also another way of, getting people employed to check on all of those things. America is going to be making over $39 billion. Lagos Research and for Development should also look into this and see what we can make from this. It's not something that we are focused on, but it's something that we should also talk about. Then when we talk about adaptation to climate change effects, still on the emission, I mentioned some buildings. I'm just jumping to industrial processes and product use. And this is also important because it was also mentioned yesterday, and I want to kind of add to it. Cement production and usage contributes a lot to the greenhouse. So why don't we look at our clay, our mud, our clay bricks? We should look inwards to homegrown materials that we have, like the clay bricks, like we have the straw bale, we have the bamboo. We should look at all of these. Then we should reduce. So we can't actually say, we don't want to use cement again. We're going to have a problem with that, because there's supposed to be a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plan for anything. But we should put in mind, or it should be part of the action, that we want to reduce, we want to replace, and sometimes we need to reuse. So when we pull down structures, then I listed something there that you should look at in terms of road construction with cement interlocking blocks. There's something in the Ife Museum. The first the first and only female Oni, she used to make her slaves to make brick, these clay pots. So when they are made, they are now broken and used to pave. So since then they've been doing interlocking pavements with those clays, and they are still there today. So it's something that we can look into and start making our interlocking blocks, pavements with clay. So, okay. So then in terms of energy, we have renewable energy. We talked so much about that yesterday. We need to leverage on the existing gas hubs, the Greater Lagos, Itoki Terminal. Then the biomass. The Olushosun dump site is still there till today. We can have what we call our energy park, integrated energy park. We can have that there. It stops being a menace, but it supplies us alternative energy. Then solar energy, hydro. Then there is this wind energy that Namibia is also doing from their open sea. I'll get to that side. From their open sea, they generate that energy. We have open sea. We can also do that. So it's not just about gas, because a lot was said about gas, energy, and I'm like, okay, it's good. The women are still afraid of gas. So we need to do a lot about that because of the danger, in the use of gas. So what about our biomass? What about packing them the same way you're going to pack gas? That's the carbonizing household cooking gas, solar-powered cookers. And the day I saw, I don't know, there's this product that starts with L, solar products that starts with L. I saw them on the TV and they were advertising, and I'm like, okay, until in Africa we introduce solar energy that can contribute to production, not just lighting, fan, no, not just TV. We don't want to have future generations of lookers. Until we have solar energy or any kind of energy you are proposing to us that can contribute to production, we are not going anywhere yet. And there won't be development. So our solar panels should do beyond just giving us light and keeping us cool. But the woman that wants to blend pepper should be able to use it. The barber should be able to use it, and so on like that. Okay. So, flood. Have I jumped? Okay. Flood. Okay. So for flood, we should build flood defenses. We've done something before, and we shouldn't stop at that. I think we should go on, because the communities that we have left at the mercy of that project needs to be looked at. Anytime I'm talking to policymakers, I always talk about inclusion. There is no Well, I can't say Animal Farm said all animals are equal for summer, but that is the society we have found ourselves in. But as policymakers, we should be inclusive. So we should keep on doing flood defenses, improve our water storage and usage. And I always like to hammer on, I think when we had the massive June flood in VI, I can't remember which year was that, some 2 or 3 years back. I remember at that meeting on the mainland, I told the stakeholders, I said, what are we doing with rainwater harvesting? We have rain. Now, right now, part of the climate change risk is that we are going to be having excessive rainfall. What can we do with that? That has been what I've been preaching for over 3 years, rainwater harvesting. You see, it's an indigenous system. In those days, those huts, they had this, where in the roofs, they are built in the roofs, where the surface runoff from the roofs collates and they drop into drums. In fact, I went to the east. I couldn't lay my hand on the picture. I saw a whole family, you know, the way the Igbos build their families together, you know. They had a massive space in between the households where they collected the rainwater, and it was a very deep tank that they had there. So I already presented this somewhere, and we gave them, in fact, we had a prototype of an estate where, you know, the space between the buildings are not so much that you could connect the roofs and store. It's possible. It's done in Hamburg. It's done in some other countries that are similar to us. What is stopping us from doing this? This is not the first time I'm saying it at a policymakers meeting. We can do that, and it's important for so many reasons. When we collect this water, number one, you can return to the house for building construction. You can return to the house maybe for flushing, for watering your gardens, for washing the cars, and at a higher level of purification, you can also you can use. We used to drink rainwater when we were primary, secondary school. So, though the environment is bad now, but at a higher level of purification, we can as well reuse. So it can limit the amount of time you need to pump water. 5 minutes. Okay, if that is what I'm going to end up with, that it's all right. You know, it's reduce the amount of time we need to pull water from the table water because we already have something. Then it can also generate electricity with it. It's possible. It's done in some other climes. You can pull it in some other places. There's a country where their stadium, underneath it, I've forgotten the name now, they had their own rainwater collection there. So you can you can have it under other buildings without having to set apart because we don't even have land. So why don't we incorporate it into what existing things? You can generate electricity, you can cool. Then there is what we call, you can even do farming with it. Amaran Kenya is making billions of dollars from farming with rainwater harvesting. We cannot rely on rain-fed. We can do rainwater harvesting. There's a lot that we can do. Okay, so let me see. I jumped the EAT. So part of it also is that plan for EAT and building designs, which should have natural light, natural airflow. Then there is also the roof gardens. That is also very important. It gives us more oxygen. It cools the buildings. It protects the lifespan of the roofs. So what are we talking about? Can we begin to look at a Lagos state with vegetables on the rooftop? You know, just imagine how the landscape is going to be, not just those colors that don't do anything for anybody, but beautiful gardens on your roof, vegetables where you can use at home or even trade with. Please, let's begin to think differently about adapting infrastructure to climate change. So next, okay, so cities to compare. I think I'm done. I'm fast. I'm happy. Cities to compare. I said Namibia, Windhoek, is both a arid and coastal city. They lost their water aquifer due to contamination, something that has happened on the island, that is going to be happening soon because of, we need to, going forward, see, we can't stop because the development is going ahead of governance. So that's why we have what we have. But we can peg it right now and say, going forward, estates, buildings, is an estate to one water generating, and begin to see, research for development should go on as to what to do with these many boreholes. If you have an aerial view of Lagos State with these holes, you'll be amazed. We have so many holes. Every house in the street, 20 buildings, 20 boreholes. It's terrible, and we need to stop it. Thank you very much. Then India too, they get their power from their open lagoon. I've mentioned India, Namibia, and Hamburg. rainwater harvesting is something that we can look into. It will create jobs. We need to do roofs that, Thank you very much. I think I've come to the end. Okay.
Thank you very much.
My recommendations.
Okay, you've done very wonderful, and I think just summarizing what you've presented, particularly I will pick on the fact that the inadequacy or incompleteness of the document that was launched yesterday, in the sense that water aspect is missing, which I want the rapporteurs to note that so that we check, and the fact that you talked about adaptation and the fact that Lagos should take advantage of rains, but I want to also seize this opportunity to let you know that what you are suggesting in terms of rain harvesting is something that is already in our plans, and one of the drivers is also in here. We call it sustainable urban drainage system. So in the next 2 or 3 months, we should come up with that. So without wasting much time, I think we will go to the next discussion. Of course, because of his job, you will know that he will be focusing more. While she has discussed infrastructure in a broad way, we will be focusing more on roads, because this is our general manager and field marshal in road maintenance. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to discuss about sustainable infrastructure development, Lagos. Basically, we could go ahead. We know Lagos has its own peculiar challenges, ranging from how close it is to the sea level. We know it's virtually the commercial nerve center of Nigeria. A lot of activities go on in Lagos. The United Nations has already forecasted by year 2100, Lagos will probably be the largest city in the world. Presently, because of the migration and socio-economic things, there's so many people in Lagos, and we really have to take note that despite the fact that Lagos is probably the smallest state in the federation, about 3,500 square kilometers, it still has the highest vehicular density in the country. It faces a major pressure on our infrastructure and public utilities. We have situations whereby axle loads of different types have to move around, while all the other modes of transportation is in process, that is waterways and the rail line. However, the roads are a major form of movement of people to and fro. And we need to also realize that if we do not match the population growth, which we have at about 21 million now in Lagos, with provision of sustainable infrastructure, it would probably lead to more slums. We can readily recall the situation in Oshodi some years back. We could also readily recall the situation in Ilubiri. However, the infrastructural development cannot be, the need for it cannot be overemphasized. Consequently, we need to have a framework wherein we have a sustainable infrastructure development. It has to be critical, have a balance, whereby we know the obvious that we need to develop, and we still need to consider the issues, the threats by climate change. What do we mean by climate change? Most of us know it's just the variations in normal weather patterns caused due to pollution. Infrastructure development has a lot of inherent pollutions that go on by way of air, water, soil, noise, different forms of carbon emissions, energy dissipation. And it's important to also note that by virtue of air pollution, too much direct energy emissions from vehicles on a day-to-day basis. Greenhouse gases are being emitted. And it's also noteworthy to mention as well that even roads make up about 79% of global noise disruptions all over. Additionally, road construction or infrastructure, it distorts the ecosystem and depletion of finite raw materials. And we also have to realize that these raw materials are finite. We need to, by the time we are blasting at the quarries and all that, we are distorting the ecosystem as well. So, in essence, we have to look at having a sustainable infrastructure development. Sustainability in itself is the ability to meet our current needs without compromising the capacity of the next generation to meet theirs. It means, in essence, we have to design, build, operate structural elements in ways that do not diminish the social, economic, and ecological process required to maintain human equity, diversity, and the functionality of the rural system. It's as depicted there. Going forward, we have to emphasize on research and development so that our engineering is all-inclusive. Our resources, which are being depleted day in, day out, we can all recall that years back, we used to have lateritic fill all around where it's now called OPIC, but presently you can't get it there. Lots of the quarries continue to blast rocks, so we have to keep on, and all this emit a lot of gases which affect the climate. It has to be climate friendly, environmental considerations, and still meet the social needs, because we need to as well ensure that people of about 21, 22 million still go from one end to the other to transact the business. PwC is basically involved in ensuring roads are maintained all year round, and the corporation's mandate is to, despite all the challenges posed by it, we need to look ahead. Research and development. We need to go towards making our roads green. What are green roads? Green roads can be defined as roads which limit their impact on the environment to a minimum through sustainable practices. What practices are we putting in place now? By virtue of the asphalt production plants, which are critical to the production of asphalt premix, there's a lot of air emission. One of the plants that we had at inception was not inclusive of a dust collector or cyclone separator, but it's been thought about, and in year 2011, a fabrication, a manufacture was done to reduce the emissions, and even the plants that were gotten after that had specifics to the manufacturers to include the emission control units. And in addition, they were located in the outskirts, Badagry, Ajido in Badagry, and Imota in Ikorodu. However, the truth about the matter is we need to just improve on the particulates that come out, because even the plant that is at Ujodu presently, which was installed in, say, 1980, 82, there was not much migration around that axis, but development has come in. So they need to continually ensure that the particulates going to the atmosphere are greatly controlled. That has imbibed the reason to have the dust collector in place and have another adapter. Additionally, we need to note as well that most of our materials are finite and they require energy, which also gives out a lot of greenhouse gases. At the quarries, there's a lot of blasting of materials to have crushed stone, granite stone, and other materials. So therefore, what we're doing now, we've all commenced, and it's going to go on a large scale where we can claim asphalt pavements. Instead of having lots of equipment on sites that would also be using lots of energy, an asphalt mill, is materials by asphalt. However, that we can walk in rural areas and not particularly continue to emit gas in those places. Additionally, I need to bring to the attention of everybody that we all know the issue of tires. Tires have been an environmental nuisance here and there. However, in collaboration with the private sector, we are also working on it. We've commenced using tire crumbs as part of our mix, and that reduces proportionately, reasonably, a lot of the materials which would have still been gotten from the natural resources, which naturally are depleting day in, day out. All these practices being done to protect the environment as well is being certified. We have an ISO certified lab working with us to ensure that they conform. When we use the rubber, it's still right. The specifications are met. When we use the asphalt pavements, it's still right. And then going forward, research and development is going to be very important, because even when we break down building sites and we have a lot of aggregates, we should be able to recycle the aggregates, get out the aggregates, the reinforcement separate, and use them for production. Going forward, in order to reduce emission and other alternatives that can be used, the in-house team has introduced the cold mix asphalt, wherein energy reduction is in place, not large energies being used. And when we want to walk as well, we move the walk to try and walk at night, so that we can take charge, and then there's less emission. Presently, we're working on research to use lots of all the plastics that is a major part of pollution to be used for asphalt road surfacing and base walk, which would further reduce cost, reduce energy consumption at the quarries. We are committed to ensuring that at least 60% of all road maintenance operations are carried out at night to minimize noise. At Lagos State Public Works Corporation, we have realized we have to continually strive to develop innovative ways for better or more sustainable roads. We are committed to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We will rise to the challenge of the SDGs by making environmental protection and conservation of natural resources our guiding principles to drive sustainable road rehabilitation and maintenance. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I think that was also equally a robust presentation. You started by giving us the statistics, which we all are aware of, that by 2100, if we are not careful, Lagos will probably be the largest city in the world in terms of population. You talked about the fact that road, though, I would say they are inevitable, but they still emit the largest pollution and the depletion of the ecosystem. You talked about what your organizations are doing in order to make sure that your processes are more in line with climate change compliant. And basically, what I note from both discussion is the need for research and development, which is key. And if you've been following what we have been discussing right from yesterday, the emphasis has always been on research and development. So I think Lagos State need to start thinking of a robust R&D section. So having said that, we'll take maybe 2 or 3 questions from audience, and I want to believe that people are ready with. So let's have the questions, and you have to specify who you want to address. But we will take all the questions, and then our discuss. Number 1, number 2, number 3, 4. Is that all? So we have 4 questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Innocent. As the
I represent Eco Carbon Exchange, a voluntary carbon market operator. There's no doubt Lagos has been doing great things, okay, in the sustainability sector for a very long time, except that we agreed the last time that coordination is an issue. Okay. Now, part of the issue of coordination is the ability or the capacity to be able to aggregate emission reductions that's happening by your project. A lot of water. As we speak, emission reduction of All Saints Grammar School, Ondo, their water borehole, which was given to them by Total. Now, talking about water, a lot of water projects are all over the place. It's either is renewable or is manual. All of them reduce the emissions. Who is aggregating that? And that is what the Eco Carbon Exchange has been taking up for quite some time now. So it will be important to, with all you are doing, to be able to probably work with the Eco Carbon Exchange so that you can know the amount of carbon that you are aggregating, you are reducing. And then, like we said in the plenary there, you will be able to take that into the carbon market. As we speak, a ton of carbon is between $15 and $20, depending on the project. It's a lot of money, and you can generate a lot of revenue from there.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, yes, and then I will also add that the road sector is a major issue in terms of emission reduction. You already mentioned idling machineries during construction and the emission that they emit. You may need to also, R&D, you may need to look at the differential between using cement and what you are doing. I know cement is a hard to abate source material, but you may have to get a differential from the two. Now, R&D again, talking about R&D, what R&D does is gives you a stochastic data on what exists. But we need to be looking at quantifying emissions, which is part of aggregating what you're doing, and then regular monitoring, verification, and reporting, because that's the MRV is what enables you to go to the carbon market. So please, who is aggregating data? But we are available to work with you.
Thank you. Number 2.
Good afternoon, madam. My name is Akuru Bamgadi Sesebola. I'm from Lagos State Wastewater Management Office. You were saying something about sinking boreholes all over the place. Yes, in my office, we've identified that majority of water, well, the wastewater we are using in our homes, we are discharging into the environment. And this same water will go into the aquifer of the soil, and it will still come back to your table as you're drinking water. So what I want to say now, presently we don't have enough infrastructure to treat our wastewater. Even in our different homes that we are using septic tank system, majority of the septic tanks are not well designed. So most of us are drinking contaminated water in Lagos State. So what I'm looking at now, I said, if we are discharging this water into the environment, like I was in a program last week, the wetland, conservation of our wetland. So it is high time now that we start looking into we are looking into a non-conventional way of treating our wastewater by conserving our wetland. Our wetland is a natural way. We are so blessed in this part of the world that our wetland can treat our wastewater. So majority of the wetland that we are converting to buildings can still serve us as our treatment plants. So we need to conserve our wetland so that it can help us treat, because we still need a lot of advocacy in this area of our sector. We need to educate so many people about wastewater. They will just discharge. They don't know where it is going, because in Lagos State, 80% of waste water you are consuming ends up as wastewater. So where are they going to? Where is this water going to? Nobody cares to know. But it's still coming back to your table as you're drinking water. So we need to work on that.
My name is Awulisi Audeji. I will have a number of questions. I think it's they go to the
Just
table.
ask, I'm sure whoever.
Yes. Now, first of all, the moderator mentioned that there is work going on harvesting rainwater, and I think he mentioned something about integrated urban drainage system, and that in about 2 or 3 months. But I would just like an idea of what is that is all about, so that we can at least that can serve as an appetizer before the real document comes up. The GM PwC talked about reclaiming, using tires to as part of the material that is used in road. I want to know, because you mentioned that they are working with private sector to, I believe, to get those tires. Is Loma involved? Because I see quite a number of Loma labeled trucks carrying tires. I don't know where they take them to. I assume that they take them to the dump site. So, but if is Loma are you working in synergy with Loma? Because I know that they can actually supply you a lot more of that. And I want to ask, sir, that sand mining is a major climate change, because when you mine in Lagos, you see all kinds of trucks mining laterites, dredging the lagoons and all of that. And these are materials that are used in construction for infrastructural provision. And what is your take on what do we need to do for? And Madam, you said that the use of gas, that women are afraid of using gas. What do you suggest as part of advocacy? How do we go about that to further ensure that more women they use gas and all of that? And finally, this is just like a comment that I believe that the private sector will play a very key role in achieving sustainable infrastructure. To adapt the effect of climate change. They play a lot of roles in terms of financing, in terms of R&Ds. Government cannot do everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last question.
Good afternoon, moderator. My name is Engineer Fagbe Kuntayo, Office of Drainage Services. My question goes to my GM. In Office of Drainage Services, you have some challenges. When we dredge, you come back, you see a lot of PET bottles inside the canal and everything. You mentioned the other time that there's research going on usage of all these plastic bottles for construction of roads. I just want to ask, how far with the research? Is it ongoing? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think we'll give the panelists to just give us the answers to the question we'll start with. But also, you will also be giving, as you are answering because I think two of the questions are not really, they are just like suggestions and recommendations, while the last two speakers are. So you will give us your answers as well as a closing shot, while she will also do the same.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate you on the need to aggregate the emissions. It is something that's been spoken about. We will synergize well so that we know how much carbon. Our aim is to reduce it, but in as much, whatever we have, we would aggregate it. So there will be synergy to get that done, so that over all our processes, at least we would have a figure, and then from there we would take it up in line with everything that is being put in place. Indeed, cement is used worldwide, and it's something that there's still a lot of research going on, but that's why you find out people are using prefabricated units where it can be done without. With the issue of tires, as per the tires, we commenced in conjunction with Mrs. Petra Robber, who also has links, who is registered with Loma for the tires, and we commenced, and it's been used in Immortal Asphalt plants, but we are modifying it. The reason why we are modifying it is it needs a specialist equipment that will further shred the crumbs of the tires. We've tried it in the past, we've used it, and it has its own deficiencies. It clogs up our system. However, the plant manufacturer has offered, there's new technology that further shreds the rubber, and it's actually being manufactured now, and very soon it would be put in place. The advantages include it prevents rotting, we have a more sustainable road, and well, those things will not be an environmental nuisance. The issue of the PET bottles, research work, just as we commenced research on having a cold mix design for asphalt, the research work is still ongoing, and we are optimistic that would come out with results that would make us be able to recycle it. Thank you. All said and done, sustaining our infrastructure is all our responsibility. The infrastructure gap is so much. We need to join hands collectively, take possession, do everything to go in the direction of a green highway. However, it has to be sustainable so that we don't go back on the roads. So all of us in our different homes and wherever we find ourselves, let's join hands together for that. Thank you.
Okay. I think the only question that directly speaks to me is about the use of gas and making it safe for the women. This is important because as good as we need alternative energy source, we need more training. So if you want to divert the attention, because yesterday they were talking about low penetration of gas usage in homes for home cooking. While we're looking at the containers, ensuring that they are not expired, we need to do a lot of reorientation and orientation campaigns, training for the women to be able to adopt this, so that buildings come with instructions that the cylinder should be outside and not inside. The storage type and all of those things needs to go into place for it to be safe. One of the speakers spoke about Songotedo building project, where they have a prototype where they have already piped the gas, so that there's already a gas inflow into the unit. While I was like, oh, this is good, and I was like, okay, I hope that we have alarm trigger. There's this smoke alarm that triggers not just when we have smoke now, even the smell, the scent of gas. Pardon me? The leakages, yes. So that if there's any leakage that is captured, there's a trigger, then there's an alarm that goes to everywhere, and there should be a central lock where all gas supplies shut down until that place is identified. So there will be a lot for this to work. A lot needs to go on, from training to making sure that the arrangement is safe for use for homeowners. So I'm just going to add this. There's a slide that on transportation. Lagos State is doing so much about multimodal transportation, but it needs to be integrated for us to reap the benefits. And in closing, I'm going to say that while I love the tire usage, whatever, it's fantastic. I love that innovation is coming in. But we are proposing that we have road networks that are penetrable, water penetrable. So I don't know when we get the research to do that.
Thank
so
you
that
very
water
much.
will be able to flow and collect the way we want surface runoff to collect.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we've all done very well. I will just take a final. No, just the essay just want to have the last say, and then we'll say goodbye. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Just to celebrate all of you. I just wanted to listen, but in the course of listening, I just decided to add something to what she said about collecting water. It's done a lot in my area in the east. Yes, in my compound, because everywhere is being built up. So water cannot enter into this land again or into the soil. So we collect it in a big tank and then treat it and then use it. If we do that, because Lagos is a coastal city, it's going to help. Because they say drainage, I know what we're going through in matters of cleaning the drainage and construction and all that. So it's advisable that we do that. Then number two is, I noticed what you're doing under the bridge. Okay, not you. Construction is going on there. Asphalt is failing now because Lagos is a coastal city. They're now casting. And I think Works Corporation, Maryland under the bridge, they are doing casting there now. Because I'm a regular user I live in Surrey, so I'm a regular user. So they put, if you have just 2 rainfalls, the whole thing will just wash away. So they're now using casting. And I'm suggesting that we apply casting in some of our works. Casting, using cement, is going to help us. That's what they use on Apapa, Oshodi Expressway now, and some other areas. That's what we need, because Lagos is a coastal city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. On that note, we end this session. Please, a round of applause for everybody. Thank you. Thank you. For music, go to the ground floor.